Are you a trader and your account experiences a lot of really violent ups and downs? You make money, you lose money, you have this euphoric run where everything's going your way. Then you have this downturn where nothing goes your way. You quit trading because you feel like I can't ever really get ahead. I can't keep anything that I've gained. What we're going to talk about in this video is why a process may be able to help you get what you desire out of trading, and it may be the one thing that's missing. And one of the most challenging things about teaching people how to create processes is that we have people with, very extensive educations. We have people that are quote unquote certified and licensed, and many of them have not been educated how to create processes, how to create structures that are going to allow them to be successful. And then they often don't have the emotional state to stick with the process, even when things may not be going their way short term. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, the question you want to ask is, what is a process? Many people cannot explain to you what a process is. One of the biggest challenges that you're going to have is you don't understand how to create a structure to evaluate, right, what you want, and then also create a structure to obtain what you want, right? And many people, when you ask them a metric around what they want, they can't give it to you. Or if they say this is not taking place, then if you ask them, well, what is a metric around that taking place that you would be satisfied with? They can't give it to you. So then therefore, because we don't understand how to evaluate or measure what we want at the end, we therefore cannot create a structure to get it. Because often when creating processes, you think about what you want the end to look, and then you try to create a process to obtain that. So the first thing we want to know is, what is a process? Process, a series of actions that you take in order to achieve a result. Often we can't get the result because we can't create the series of actions to get the result. But we say this, I'm not getting this result. Okay, what actions do you need to take to get the result? I don't know. So then that's why we have a word where other people come in and they say, hey, we're going to do this, this, and the third, because what do they know? You and your group cannot create their own processes. You and your group cannot create your own structures. You can't create your own systems. And then you also don't know how to measure and evaluate things. You don't know how to do KPIs, right? So you're operating in a system that is full of processes and you don't know how to create any of them. Now, what I want you to do is look at an example of how on the submarine force, you have to be very process oriented to be successful, or it could be detrimental to everybody on the sub.
All right, what you're looking at here is a damage control wet trainer. One thing I want you to notice, it's a small confined area. I'm going to put you down here at the start of the casualty, and we're going to turn on water flooding to simulate flooding on a submarine. All right, do a good job. Take your time. Safety is priority one. Make it happen. How you doing, Chief? All right. We all ready to go? Yep. Okay, what I'd like to start them out with is port and starboard lube oil. Let them get the initial report and sound the collision alarm off, and then we'll hit them with the ASW suction. Flooding in the engine room. Flooding in the engine room. There we go. Get on it. You got wetbacks? You got strapping? Yeah. You're strapping. Cut it up. Music. Over here.
So much for your teamwork.
It's all everything. We have 2 men on the scene now. You got 2 men that aren't doing anything up there. Put a man in charge at the scene. Get up there and do it himself. The water level coming up. Move on it. All right, let me get in there and yell at him.
Go in there and tell them to regroup, and we'll try it again.
All right, you guys, come on over here. Officer Miller, listen to me. Come here.
Yeah.
You're the man in charge at the scene, right? You got a flooding casualty. It's not enough that you just assign people to go fight it. You got to follow up on it. You got 2 guys on that flange that have been standing up there picking their damn noses for the last 2.5 minutes when you got 700 gallons a minute coming into the trainer. If you see that they're not getting the job done, take them off the job and get 2 more guys up there.
All right.
You ready to start again, Chief? All right, let's stick it to him. Hit him with the flange, Chief.
Flange on. I should make believers out of them.
Now they know what flooding is. Welcome to the submarine force, gentlemen.
600 gallons and rising.
And one thing you want to understand is that, let's say you're a single person working on the sub and something happens and you don't follow the process, which is what? You have to sound the alarm to get help. Because let's say hypothetically you're mad at your co-workers and you don't want to call them to come help. So then what happens? The situation continues to get worse. The situation gets exponentially worse. It gets greater than what you can handle individually. Because why? You didn't go call for help. The process is that when you realize that there's a leak on the sub, the first thing you do is you sound the alarm. Why? So help can come to you. What you don't do is do what you want to do because that's how you feel that day. Or the fact that me and this person got into an argument and I'm not talking to him today, I don't sound the alarm, right? That is going outside of the process that's been created to deal with this particular contingency on the sub. You understand me? So this is why so many people struggle at process, is because how they feel and what they want to do in their mind should override the process. Let's keep going. What is your process? Why do you take a trade or not take a trade? Do you take a trade when the ticker's 3 days in a row green? Do you take a trade when the ticker's 3 days in a row red? Do you take a trade when the average volume is 20% lower than it normally should be? Do you take a trade with a combination of a ticker being 3 green days above the 50-day moving average plus the average volume is 50 days less than it should be? Do you have a process and a rationale around why you take a trade? And many people are trying to get around the fact that they don't have a process based around their trading. They wake up and if they feel a certain way, they take a trade, right? There's no such thing as unemotional trading, but there is such thing as trading with no process, right? And until you really want to invest in studying processes, building your own processes, and knowing enough about processes to where you can purchase one. So let me give an example. The quick serve industry. You go buy a Wingstop, or you go buy Checkers, or you go buy IHOP. What you're doing is you're buying somebody else's process. But you understand enough about processes and whether or not they're good or bad to know that I'm buying a good process or I'm buying a bad process. But you're just buying somebody else's process. And that's what they do, is you get sold their process. But the reason why those stores are so successful and been successful for so long and they're so wide out is because why? They have a process that works. That's just how it goes. The reason why the number one retailer in the world has been successful for so long inside the United States is because they have a process to do stores that actually works. Doesn't work 100% of the time, but it works the majority of the time, which is why they're so widespread. You as a trader want to understand why you're taking a trade or not taking a trade, and it should be based on your process. It should not be based on, I think I'm going to miss out on a move. I think I'm going to miss out on some money. I got to prove something to myself as a trader. None of those are processes. Those are just how you feel. So what I want to encourage you to do is create a process and test it and record your results, right? Create a process, test it, and record your results, right? Keep doing that until you get enough data to determine whether or not the process works. And you don't have to do it with real money. You can paper trade it, right? Create a process, test it, record your results. And then you can now look and find out whether or not this process works and in what process do I need to create. And if you struggle with creating a process, your problem may be you are challenged to create a process and not trading. So I'll repeat myself. If you struggle with creating a process, if you try to create a process and 10 minutes later, you're now looking at something on social media. If you're trying to create a process and you throw it away just to do trading based on how you feel when you wake up in the morning, your problem may be that you're challenged to create a process and not trading. Your problem may have nothing to do with trading. And so this is what a lot of people find when they come into the market. They find out that who they really are gets exposed. Because in the world outside of the markets, you're able to hide behind a lot of stuff. The market won't allow you to do that because you have to continue to examine your behavior all the time. And a lot of people don't like that because what they want to do is blame their behavior on somebody else, and the market won't allow you to do that. Here's a video of a person showing a group of students how to test a radiator cap. And he's showing them a process around testing the radiator cap. And what's really interesting is he gets them to understand that you have to create a baseline first of whether or not this radiator cap is valid before you understand whether or not the one you're testing actually is faulty. Let's check this out.
On the wrong way, like happens a lot of the time. Everything's dry here. And I want to show you here. It's actually just pushing the air out right away. It won't seal. Now that could be that the cap is just plain bad. Let's just try the new one quick. Once again, dry. And see if we get anything. Looks like it's holding a heck of a lot better, doesn't it? But notice how it's dropping down here. So what's happening, it's not sealing all the way. I want to show you why. If I take it, put this one on again. So we definitely say that this old one's bad. Let's go ahead and we'll go in this bucket of water here. Obviously you can see the bubbles coming up there, so we know that we don't have a good seal. Just out of curiosity, what I'm gonna do though, is I'm gonna get everything wet here and see how much better that gets, okay? You also wanna clean your surfaces. Go ahead and make sure it's just not some crap on here. And this cap just very well could be bad. All right, ready? The cap is 100% bad, isn't it?
Yep.
So let's go ahead and put the new one on. And now with this wet, I bet we're not gonna have any leaks whatsoever. Okay, but now in the water, we'll at least be able to see if there's any bubbles as well. It's holding pretty dang good on this one, whether wet or dry, but what I need to do is go to the manual and find out what 1.1 is, and I'll do that right now. All right, just to verify, I went and double checked the spec. 0.9 would be about 13 PSI, and then 1.1 is 15.95, so say 16. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and pump that up to that. Do you see how, I'm gonna do it again, watch this. You'll see how I'm gonna get a burst, and we said we're sealed, right? See how there's nothing in here?
Yep.
So this is also showing that the radiator cap has the ability to bleed off too much pressure so that we don't build too much pressure in the system. This cap right now is holding 13 easily. You can see when it gets to 15 to 16, it's popping the bubble. Watch this when this needle gets to right here, you'll see the bubble inside the water tank here. I'm gonna try and see if I can get it to hold up. Yeah, it's popping right there. So that is when it will release. What I want to do is I could just leave this, walk away from here and come back in an hour and make sure it's not dropping. There are specifications that you should only lose like no less than a pound an hour or something like that, but check your service manual. This is a great way to test it. Nowhere in the manuals do they tell you to submerge it in water and just prove that it actually has the ability to release and hold, and you'll know your fittings are all good. I mean, you got to think about it. You could have leaks here, anywhere. If you have a failed cap, make sure you put a good one on there and prove the integrity of your tool.
If you struggle with following your process, your challenge may be following your process and not trading. Okay? Once again, we see all over the world and society, people put in positions in which they're supposed to follow a process and they don't follow the process. And what we get caught up in is what they did, and we don't ever understand, did they follow the process? I did a video with Dana with the data hasn't dropped yet. We probably got 1 million videos that haven't come out yet. And we talked about house appraisals and whether or not there was racism in house appraisals. And I told Dana, I can't tell you whether or not there's racism in house appraisals because I haven't been given their process to appraise a house. How do they go about appraising a house? What's the process? Because then if we have the process, Then we can say, okay, you went outside the process that you stated is your process and you inserted race into it. But if I don't know their process, I can't determine whether or not they did something outside of their process because I don't have their process to use as a baseline to evaluate the behavior of the appraisal. You see why they don't let people like me on their platforms? Because what we're not going to do is talk about whether or not it's racism until we understand how are they supposed to operate in this situation based on their own policy or based on their own procedures. So this is why when you have a lot of these situations, you never get the process or the procedure that the person's supposed to operate under, because why? It don't create the conversation. Because once we pull out the policy and the procedure, the conversation's over because we can now determine whether or not the person's actions fit within what they were supposed to be doing. That kills the conversation. You understand me? That's what I want you to understand. When you start looking at things from a different point of view, you can understand how to evaluate whether or not something is working or not. And then if you go outside of that, we know that the problem is not the environment. The problem is that you didn't follow process. Successful traders have a process. I want to encourage you to get one. And it may take time. It may take trial and error. But if you understand how to do this in one aspect of your life, you can now apply this to every aspect of your life. I'm not saying that you can't have fun, not saying you can't enjoy yourself. But if you really start to look at the world, you're seeing a bunch of processes and a bunch of systems. That's how this world is run. This world is not run by how people feel when they wake up in the morning, right? That's how the masses think the world is run, because it's not their job to manage these systems and manage these processes, right? So they get caught in the big idea, vision statements and all that stuff because why? I don't even understand the basic systems and processes that manage my life. And then you can never be in a position to actually have power in the environment until you understand how to create systems, processes, evaluate them, measure them, iterate them, change them, and then keep going. Hope you got some value from it. David W. Williams, talk to you later.